Welcome to the Accounting Arc Podcast, where analysis, reaction, and comedy collide to tackle the big topics from the world of accounting and beyond. Join our trio of transformation agents as they discuss the hottest topics in and out of the profession, from breaking down industry trends, to reacting to everyday events, to uncovering the hidden humor in numbers. With wisdom, insight, and a dash of levity, they're proving that accounting isn't just about the numbers. It's about life. Because after all, accounting is in everything. The Accounting Arc Podcast starts now.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. We are here with another episode of Accounting Arc, and it's just Liz and I today. And one of the things I'm about to actually start a 3.5 week trip. And as we started talking about that, we thought, hey, maybe a lot of people don't realize that you don't only have to travel to go on audits or to go out to client sites as part of the profession. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Liz, what are some examples of other travel that I know you actually did a whole bunch when you were actually in the professional or as part of the firm, but what other ones have you done?
Yeah. I think like starting at the beginning, right? So when I worked for big firms, we always had training, right? So there was client work, client travel, projects, all of that. But then there was training, and that would be like a whole week, generally at a place outside of Chicago called the Q Center that like a lot of the large firms use as their training headquarters. And then, there's other conferences, right? And so that was like the very beginning was at least 1 week a year of training and the client delivery. And then, there's local conferences like the state societies have put on different CPE and events. And sometimes they're like, not in your city. So you have to travel to like the next city to go to them and stay overnight, right? And those are little things. And then the AICPA puts on a ton of conferences, including Engage, which is coming. It comes every year, normally in the summer. And that one's this giant conference that most people go to get like all their CPE. A lot of smaller firms send everybody, in fact, to go learn about what's happening in the profession, talk to people. And so like, at the beginning you start with like, I'm going to attend all the conferences and I'm going to learn all the things. And then it kind of morphs into, oh, I have ideas. I want to share my ideas. Let me talk about my ideas. And then you start talking at the things, and then you end up on 3 week journeys like Donny's about to go on. So what is your 3 week conference journey this year?
So this year it's Denver to Miami to New York is effectively my layover, and then Toronto before I come back home to Hawaii. And yes, three of the cities I'm actually speaking at events. I probably have, I think when we counted, I think it's 10 sessions over that course that I'm speaking for. Um, yeah, and I agree with you. It's something I never knew that was even possible, because I used to, when I started off, I was speaking for my state society, and I would do little sessions here and there and things, and that was kind of fun. I got exposure to my peers and things. And then when I got involved at the national level, this whole different arena of speaking at like AICPA conferences. And once I spoke at AICPA conferences, people from other state societies heard me speak and was like, hey, would you be interested in coming to our state? So I've now been to, I think, 35 of the 50 states. And then
That's
with
amazing.
that, people are from CPA firm associations heard me speak. So for those out there, CPA firm associations, it's basically CPA firms, generally one in each geographical area, but they form these associations internationally to collaborate. And so that's kind of interesting. There's like, I don't know, like 30 something of them, I think, internationally. But once I got connected into that, now I started having international travel. So I've been to Dominican Republic, Shanghai, Vietnam, Singapore, like all kind of places to speak at these other conferences as well.
Meanwhile, I was speaking in like Texas and Oklahoma.
I spoke to
Chicago,
both of those
Las
too.
Vegas. Just saying, different caliber. But no, I think it's really interesting when you start actually pursuing speaking and what that means, because I think you and I have taken kind of different tracks on that, right? Like you've been more on the traditional CPA, like let's talk at the firm associations and the CPA societies and the AICPA, and I'm pretty sure you also did an international one for the yeah, that one was really cool. So it's really fascinating and interesting. And meanwhile, I got really deep in partnering with tech companies and working with them to bring content to accountants that weren't necessarily CPAs, but were running accounting firms and what we call CAS, which is client accounting services, which includes everything from bookkeeping to CFO type services and all the consulting that can go with that. It's not the traditional audit or tax, right? It is kind of this tertiary service line that most of the big CPA firms have now or are growing. And in order to do it well, you have to partner with technology, build automated systems, and really be able to deliver what is modern internal accounting. And so, when I started speaking, I had a lot of ideas about building automations and utilizing tech in new and different ways and thinking about that. And so I ended up partnering with a lot of the tech companies and speaking at their conferences. So, the big tech companies put on these giant, ridiculous conferences every year, and they're amazing and fun and also very informative. And so I've been lucky enough to keynote a couple and be able to do a lot of breakout sessions and workshops and partner with them. And then tech companies also do these things called roadshows. So if you're using a technology in your firm, like that happens like a lot of times, that company will say, oh, we're going to do a roadshow. It's going to be in your city. So will you come? And if you're really good at the software, they might say, hey, will you present on this topic at the roadshow? And then if you're like extra good, they might say, hey, will you go to every roadshow in the US and present at all of them? And then you end up not only going to like the CPA conferences, the technology conferences, then you end up at these roadshow conferences, which are generally 1 to 2 days, like small mini session conferences about like what's happening in tech development for that particular area of tech. And how it overlaps with accounting and like what we do with it and all of that, and making sure practices are thinking about it in the right way. And then it's like these ridiculous like jumping from every city to every city. And then people are like, are you actually an accountant? Like, how often do you get asked that when people ask about your travel schedule?
Oh yeah. Well, and with the re-release of Accountant 2 now, when the first
Yeah.
Accountant movie came out, that's when people were like, that's what you're doing. You're going from city to city. And I'm like, and don't say anything more because I'm gonna have to kill you.
You can get away with that. You're very stoic.
But yeah, you're right that there's this whole vendor side. That was the other thing I never knew was there. When you start to look at the national level, and then actually when I first started working, it was only national level, and then they've got these road shows that a lot of them are doing now, which are great ways to just kind of see locally what's going on and kind of get to meet a lot of different people. Those are exciting. Those are the conferences that are marketing conferences more often than not. So you're right, they have these huge budgets. You get to do all these lavish events and dinners and whatever night at the theater or the museum or park or whatever.
Sporting events.
Base,
Yep.
yeah, baseball, football. I think we've been to all of those through some of those events.
Mhm. In the suites with like all the catering. It's great. Like it's a lot of fun. And also, the time that I spend doing those things, I use to network and build community. And I get easily drained by too many superfluous conversations. If people are just like, how's the weather where you live? I'm like, hot as hell. That's the answer all year round. So this is not a conversation, right? And I want to dive deep with people. And so I take that time to like get to know them and ask interesting questions, right? And really dive deep with a few individuals or, practice owners or anybody that I think I can learn from. And get to know the tech representatives too, and like what they're doing, what their goals are, like why they're putting these events on, what's coming out next, how I can help influence their roadmap so that they do things better for me. Get to know them from a support perspective. Like tech is integrated into everything we do. in this day and age, and you're going to be using it in your practice. And if you have relationships with the salespeople, if you have relationships with the people that are actually like developing tech or coming out with the product roadmaps, like building those relationships are huge, because then at your firm, you can be the person that says, someone I can call and see if we can get the right contact to fix this problem or to help this client or to do whatever you're getting stuck on with traditional customer support.
Completely. And you use the word influence, which sometimes I cringe, especially when I hear the word influencer, because then they're like, "Oh, you're an influencer," and I'm like, "Oh." Part of me is like, "No," but on the other hand, you just gave some really great examples of once you have all of these. Once you've done all this networking, once you have all of these connections, what you really can do is use that to drive solutions, whether it's talking more to the vendor, be like, hey, there's a bunch of people, bunch of firms that are having this issue, or on the other side with the firms to be like, oh, I've seen this other firm or this other person solve this problem in this way. Try this out. And it's a very different type of a role. I think it's a different skill. I'm trying to think of the book. I think they call them mavens. Tipping Point? I think that talked about that concept of a maven, which is a connector. It's really a connector of people, and it's about, hey, yeah, I know who you need to talk to this person, and that they can probably help solve your problem or at least get you in the right direction.
Yeah. And I think, the other important thing to understand is like, I don't think anyone in this profession like sets out to be an influencer or a thought leader or a like whatever other term you want to use that means that they have thoughts that people care about. I think the intention in everyone that I've come across, anyways, or at least I should say the majority, is to share knowledge and to help and to build relationships and understand like where the value is and how to create that value and help people figure things out that otherwise they might not be able to. Um, and I think, there is a certain subset of us in the profession that are trying really hard to push things forward from an innovation perspective, from a people perspective, from a firm business model perspective, from a how do we make this profession sustainable and ensure that we're bringing up the topics that need to be addressed and talked about, the difficult conversations that sometimes people shy away from, and also connect all the right people to make the change and push things forward. And I think accounting in general sometimes gets a bad rap for being like old school and stale and buttoned up. And there's so many terms you could use for what a traditional stereotypical accountant looks like, which we are not. We don't really do that role well. And there's a reason for that, right? And there's a reason that we've been lucky. I would say that's a big part of it. And then the other side of it, I think, is just the ability to communicate, right? And communicate ideas and not shy away from having those conversations. And luckily, both of us have had opportunities to speak on big stages because we're willing to be vulnerable and talk about the difficult things and share from a point of how do we help, how do we promote more knowledge, and how do we get access to more opportunities in more people's hands.
Yeah, and I think you've hit on a lot of the key things that distinguish us from your typical social media influencer, because really most of them in the end are either effectively selling a product or promoting some type of idea that in the end you end up buying something from them, versus a lot of us are really working towards the better of the profession, which really is the betterment of the world. It's the whole accounting view is how do we increase prosperity, whether it's in business or with the people associated with the business, whether that be customers or the employees or even the business owners themselves. With a lot of what you mentioned too, I think we should also point out that you don't have to be a total extrovert, you're like your typical extrovert type of personality to do this. I mean, I think you're less of an introvert than are, but I know that you are also an introvert. And you said a little bit earlier where you're like, yeah, I don't want to be with everybody. I want to have some more meaningful conversation. That tends to be me. I'm all usually on the side, one or two other people. Let's have a better conversation rather than what's the weather. Or I actually get oh, I've been to Hawaii. This was my Hawaiian vacation. And so I get hear a lot of those stories.
Yeah, I think it's It's interesting. So my sister is an amazing speaker, and she speaks on international stages around data science all the time. And when I was in my 20s and I was starting to write things and starting to be asked to speak places, I called her and I was like, "Hey, you are the most introverted person, and you speak on these stages in front of, and not just small, like 10,000 people, right? Like these are ridiculous stages." And I'm like, "How and why? Like give me this motivation, right?" And the thing she said to me was the first time she got on a stage was because she was tired of introducing herself and telling them why she had interesting thoughts in every interaction when she was at events. And if she got on stage, she only had to do it once, and then the interesting people found her. And it made the experience much better. And I laughed so hard because that is very clearly an efficient way to solve an introvert problem. And that is very like stereotypical of my sister and her personality. And also, like, it resonated, right? Like, I would say an ambivert. Like, in certain instances, I can be very extroverted. I get a lot of energy from being on stage. Like, I love that. I love talking to people about things. I like ideas. I like group activities that I'm interested in. And also, I don't like being thrown into giant rooms of people I don't know, like those happy hours they have at conferences where it's like, I don't go alone. I always have a buddy. Like, I need somebody to go with me to the happy hour thing and like walk around and talk to people, and then I'm fine and happy. But I don't want to go by myself and like meet all these other accountants that are probably thinking the exact same thing I am and dealing with the small talk. Um, and that also puts people off base because I just avoid small talk and start asking really vulnerable, difficult questions on, second one. I'm like, "Hi, my name's Liz. What's the most meaningful thing you did in the last month?" And they're like, uh, I, what? Right. But I do think that any energy level you have, any type of personality you have, like, there are ways to do this, right? And find somebody to be your wingman, right? Like, I have a friend, Stephanie, who I love going to conferences with because she is so extroverted and she's so funny. It doesn't matter what the topic is, she can make it funny, and everybody's laughing all the time around her, and it's great, right? Like, that's wonderful. Like, I am super happy to give her the limelight and like every so often just chime in with a like, "This is a deep question because I actually care about getting to know you."
I love that approach. That's funny. So I'm totally with your sister on that. That's why I actually started speaking, because then people come and talk to you. You don't have to go talk to
Mhm.
them. They're like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
heard you talk about this thing," and it's already giving you something more meaningful to talk about. Because I know you as well as I don't talk about superficial stuff when we talk on stage. The wingman one is an interesting one. For me, most of the time I'm traveling without someone. But I find that the talking on stage does the same thing, where I will just find somewhere not totally out of the way, but somewhere where I'm kind of on the side, but people can see me. And if I stand there by myself, people will come up and talk to me, either because of my
Mhm.
talk or maybe they heard something else and they want to pick my brain some more. And so that's kind of solved that problem for me.
Yeah. Well, and I think, over time you develop relationships. So I don't normally travel with somebody. Like, I go to the conference, but I always know somebody,
Somebody,
right?
yep, yep.
Like, I always have at least one friend in the audience, right? Or just at the event, and that to me makes a big difference in my energy level because then it's like I get to hang out with someone I care about and also meet new people. Like, that's great. If it's just I get to go meet a bunch of new people, I'm like, I'm gonna go to my hotel room and write something interesting because I love writing, and when it's quiet and I'm alone, it's great.
Well, and that I think makes other travel even more fun too. So like with this trip I'm going to, I said Miami, but on the way to Miami, I'm actually stopping in Sarasota, Florida, which are like,
Okay.
where's that? Like
Beautiful
kind of by the
beach.
panhandle. But that's where the AAA is located. And
Mhm.
through all of the things before, I've made friends with the CEO of the AAA, the Accounting Professors Association. So I'm stopping by and gonna spend the weekend with her and her husband, just kind of checking them out, checking out where they live, and kind of she said they're actually going to plan a little barbecue with some of their other staff. So it's kind of nice to just have these social situations. And then when I'm actually in Toronto, there was a woman there that worked for CPA Canada that was responsible for their equivalent of the IT section. So planning to meet up with her, and she's she's already in the past been like, oh, I have to show you Kensington Market and kind of all the cool little things. So even though I travel a lot alone, like you said, not just in the work side, but socially, you've got people that are like, hey, let me host you, let me kind of do something with you that's more fun.
Yeah, and I think you're really good at building those relationships in a way where it's not awkward to call them and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be in your city. Are you around?" Right?
Yeah.
Can I come a day early or stay a day late or whatever it is to be able to spend some meaningful time? And I think that's also something that's like a learned skill, right? I don't think you come out of the box, right? Like knowing how to build relationships with people. And when you start traveling, like the way that we travel, but you make friends all over the world,
Yeah.
and and professional friends turn into real friends, and sometimes real friends turn into professional friends, and there's
Yeah.
an ever shifting kind of river of a boundary there. And I think that it is really important to be able to maintain those friendships and be able to connect with those people when you see them. And also, if you don't see them for long periods of time, if they live on the other side of the world, like when you're in their country, when they're in your country, you always say, "Hey, I'm going to be in your country," right? Or "I'm going to be in
Exactly.
your city." Like, and it's never a surprise, right? But you have to be intentional about that and also remember where people live. And I think
Well,
that that is hard for some people.
definitely. I mean, that's kind of sometimes the hardest thing. I'm like, who's in that city? But the
Mhm.
other thing that I think I've been finding is interesting is so I always, when I travel, I always post it on social media. So whether it's Facebook or Insta, I will usually dual post. And the number of people that pick that up and go, hey, you're in my city. What are you doing? Or can we meet up? Like, I actually just had an incident a couple of months ago where I was in Japan for a different client, but one of my vendors, actually from Vietnam, their CEO was in Japan and he was like, hey, you're in Japan. I'm in Japan too. Do you want to get together? He ended up actually buying me dinner. And I got to meet some of his Japanese team. And so that was like worked
That's so
perfectly.
nice.
And I was only in Tokyo
Yeah.
for like 2 days and it just kind of synced up.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. And so I think, the message I want people to receive is like, in this profession, because we're a very large profession, there are tons of opportunities to either attend conferences, speak at conferences, travel with your profession. Technology is not a restriction in terms of being productive anymore. And so, I think it's finding the right balance with your employer and saying, hey, this is really important for my development. I think I should go to this, or I think I should apply to speak here. Or even like write in a publication and get your name out there before you apply to speak. And then there's a little bit more of a, oh, hey, like here's stuff I've done before. Here's places I've published. And, that's something I coach people on a lot, which is fun for me, to get to like help them figure out, like find their voice, right? Find their personal and professional brand and the things they're passionate about, what they know about that's like important for people to hear, or what topics, what difficult conversations they can tackle because either they're uniquely suited for it, or they have a lot of insight into it because of who they are or what they've done, right? And then figure out where to apply to speak. What are the conferences that would listen and that you would have fun at and really engage with the community and build those relationships. And so I think that's like those are always options and always things that people can do. And then finding that like niche, finding who you connect with and what that looks like over time, you just build the habits, right? It's all about building the habits and you're making sure that you know what's important. Like, and I was telling Donnie earlier, I did not apply to speak at almost any conferences this year. In the last 2 years, I built a house that I wasn't supposed to. That was like a whole personal thing. I reorganized my whole company and merged three different companies in and out of my company. Like we've done a lot. And I decided I just need a year to like be home and productive and not distracted by anything. And not to say conferences are a distraction. Normally they get way more out of them than I put into it. And also like sometimes you need a reset year and a focus year. And then I can be intentional with where I'm going and what I'm talking about in future years.
Right. That was a lot. The key thing I'm going to re-highlight out of what you said is kind of figuring out your own voice and kind of figuring out what you're passionate about because that was one of the things early on. I think I was looking at other speakers and trying to be more like them. Oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to do this. And what I really learned is I need to embrace what I know and what I'm passionate about, and I need to deliver the message in the way that matches my personality and my delivery and what I'm comfortable with. And the one other one tying back to, I think where we were earlier is also, um, part of it I think is going on stage and recognizing this is a stage. And so part of my mental prep for it is I'm going to be on. And so as soon as I start to step on that stage, I turn it on and I'm now the performer delivering the speech and everything. And then afterwards I come back and I'm like, oh, okay, that's done. And I turn back into my full introvert self.
Yes, I have had that experience with you. We've co-presented a couple times, which I really enjoyed. But I have one distinct memory at the AICPA where we co-presented, and it was a lot. And there were a ton of questions afterwards, and we got through all the questions. And then you were like, "Can we go get a coffee?" And we went and got coffee and just sat there in silence for like 10 minutes, just like looking like, okay, this is great. We look engaged. Nobody's bothering us. And also we're not thinking right now. We're decompressing. But I think it's really important to find your voice and really find like how to be that performer. So my dad was a college professor, and one of the things he taught me about teaching that he learned over his 20 something years as a professor was it's 80% entertainment, 20% knowledge transfer. And if you can hit those ratios, people will learn from you. And it seems backwards, like it seems totally backwards. And also reflect on the sessions you've gone to that were 80% knowledge transfer. What were you able to take out of that? Because you get an hour, maybe an hour and a half in these sessions, and it is so overwhelming when every single slide is like important, 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 important. Your brain cannot absorb that information that quickly, and it doesn't absorb it if it's not related to something that you personally understand. So if it's just a fact and it's not a fact put into context, or added in a story, or given some way for your brain to remember it in a meaningful way, then you don't receive it, right? And so maybe you're getting 10% of the information in that instance, when if you do it 80% entertainment, 20% knowledge transfer, you are integrating these stories into everything to where the person might remember the story, which makes them remember the information, right? And they end up getting more information and knowledge from the session than they would otherwise. So there are definitely tactics to how do you do this? How do you organize it? What does it look like? You totally have to be on, and interesting and be able to communicate concisely and get points across in a really fascinating manner and relate it back to something that people can connect to. And I think that that is a skill set that a lot of people struggle with.
Definitely some more context around making sure that when you're presenting, it's more of a show or performance rather than just like delivering information. I'm kind of tying it back to where we started. So that makes me think of the things that stood out to me the most as we go through these things are the experiences, and when an event creates an experience, like
Mm-hmm.
the one that's coming to mind, which I think you were there as well, was when we were at one of the conferences in Denver and we had gone out. They were hosting in an open area, like literally open area, no ceiling. They had like a DJ and everyone was kind of dancing and doing stuff, and then it started raining, and of course with Denver it started thundering and lightning, and it was so funny, this whole big group of accountants, and we just kept dancing. We just kept going. We were like, should we get undercover? But that's one of the memories that stick with me forever because I'm like,
Yeah,
that was just so much fun. And it was so atypical of what you would think a group of accountants would be doing.
I think accountants surprise you. We have a really cool group of people in this profession. And there are definitely stereotypes, and there are definitely people that meet those stereotypes, but it is not the norm.
What's your favorite memory of like some event that created more of an experience?
There's been a lot of like really cool experiences I've got to be a part of because of the events that I've been to. I can say, there were a few conferences I've been to in like San Diego where they did like small boat parties or dinners or experiences, and like two of those were really incredible. One of them, they orchestrated it in a way where everybody on the boat was like forced to interact with everybody else, but in like not an uncomfortable way, in a like really meaningful way, which I felt like created relationships that would have been difficult to create in a different setting. And so I really enjoyed that. There's been a few dinners. I don't love Las Vegas. It's not my favorite place. The energy there is just like insane chaos. And also, I used to audit casinos, so I spent far too much time in Las Vegas in my 20s. And but I do love the restaurants. And when different vendors mostly have taken dinners and put together like interesting groups of people for dinners, what I find fascinating is like you don't even talk about accounting, right? Like these topics, that whatever the topic might be that comes up at the table, it's more of like a curated brain trust in thinking about like what does the future look like in this way or that way. And so I've had a few experiences like that in Vegas. There's one in actually it was in Denver with Gusto that I really appreciated, where they put together like a small group dinner, and I ended up talking to some of the higher level people on the sales team at Gusto, and I had no idea who they were. I didn't even know that they worked for Gusto until after the dinner was over, and I was like, "Hey, can I have your contact information? Because this is a really great conversation." One of them, I was talking about like queer people in the accounting profession and how it's like not visible, and there's a lot of people that are pass as straight and just kind of go with it, including this woman I was talking to at a dinner. And it's interesting to be able to find small cultivated experiences with people and find out like what are you interested in, like who are you as a person, like what are you passionate about, and not even talk about like what you do, right? Like I try really hard at these events. I don't ask people like, what's your job? Right. Because that's like the thing people ask at almost any event, right? It's like, hi, what's your name? What do you do for a living? Like, I don't care. Like you're connected to the profession in some way at these events. So like I assume some level of competency in life, right? Um, and then I don't care what your job title is. And when people ask me that, sometimes I get a little off put because I'm like, well, my job title sounds really fancy. I'm the CEO. But does that say anything about me? No.
Well, I I say I bring this up, and I think you gave some really good examples because I think that's one of the other things people don't think about when they look at events. They're like, "Oh, what can I learn, or what I'm going to do?" When part of what I look at now, especially, is what's the experience going to be like? What other opportunities besides sitting in there and getting some learning in? Is there going to be? Is there opportunities for networking? What kind of event is it? What kind of networking event is it? Is it like some big thing? Is it like the boat with the curated conversations? Like those are the things now that also come into my criteria for choosing an event to go to.
Absolutely. Like, what am I getting invited to around it? And then also, like, what exists around the event? And how do I get myself invited if I want to go, right? And that's where building deeper relationships with people at these events comes in handy, because then you might know somebody that you can call and be like, hey, any chance you can get me on that list? Because that sounds like a really cool event and I want to be there, right? And then chances to build deeper relationships with people that you might know high level or have met a few times, and want to get to know better.
So, well, I think we've covered pretty much the gambit. So, the part of our thing with this episode was really making sure that people were aware that there are opportunities beyond just learning as you travel, to travel, I should say. And yes, it is a write-off because it's business related. You are going to learn, but if you really do your events and you select your events well, you actually can get way more out of the event than just some CPE credits or continuing education credits.
Absolutely. And the only other thing I would say is do not plan to do work every night. The people that I know that go to conferences and are like, oh no, I have to finish this project tonight. I have to finish this project. Like, do not promise that. Absolutely not. Like, if you are going to a conference to learn and be immersed in whatever is happening at that conference, plan to be there, right? It's one thing to like, respond to an email here and there and like deal with whatever, making sure things are moving. It's another thing to have planned work, right? And I always try really hard to like clear all the meetings. There are no meetings. I will respond to emails or Teams or whatever needs to happen so people can keep doing their jobs. And also, there is no way I'm promising a client deliverable on a week I'm at a conference.
Same here. Same here. I do my emails in between the breaks. Sometimes the longer break in between the end of the conference and whatever dinner event we're going to. The one thing that I will give people is I have been with people where they're like, no, I got away from my kids. I'm going back to my hotel room and I'm going to just decompress and enjoy the time by myself. I'll give them that one if they don't want to be social.
Yeah. I also understand that need. Sometimes I do that. But I try really hard to force myself not to, and to actually show up and meet people, because this is how I have gotten to where I am.
Agree. And I think that's part of it. If you're going to a live event, you should be interacting with others. Otherwise, just attend it virtually.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I completely agree. Well, good luck on your 3-week journey of conferences and peoples and barbecues, and have an amazing time.
Thank you. And you enjoy your time to yourself.
I will.
Great, everyone. Well, hope you have a great summer yourselves. We'll catch you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
The Center for Accounting Transformation provides business professionals with a network for utilizing innovations that are ready for adoption, the training and resources necessary to apply those innovations, and an opportunity to engage the talent and community needed to further the pursuit of innovative accounting practices that drive responsible and mindful business performance. Find out more at our website, www.improvetheworld.net. And if you're interested in sharing your own transformation stories, please contact us there.